Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
I was sitting in a crummy movie with my hands on my chin. Oh, the violence that occurs seemed like we never win. Love and mercy, that's what you need tonight. So, love and mercy to you and your friends tonight.
All right, and that opening number came from Brian Wilson called "Love and Mercy." Although it's a special a cover requested by a group called, what's it called? Gazelle Twin.
Gazelle. Well, yeah, it's Elizabeth Burholz, but she goes by the name Gazelle Twin. And I guess Scott Gimple commissioned her to do a cover of the song. Because she's got she's from the UK. She's got kind of an electronic music kind of interpretation, but obviously he wanted Brian Wilson's song for a particular reason. But that combined with the funky disco lights, got to be a classic ending.
Yeah. So it was definitely a wild scene trying to get all the walkers into those containers. So anyway, welcome everybody back to another episode of Biters. We apologize for being late to it, getting to it this week. Life and the day jobs interfered with us, so we apologize, but here we are. If you're new to the show, I'm one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, and with me on the other side of my computer monitor via Skype is
Kirk Manley.
So if you're new to the show, welcome. And
welcome.
Yeah,
it was a great. People have been really active on Facebook. We've been getting a lot of posts, and we got a lot of stuff to read, and we appreciate everybody's excitement and energy around Biters. Getting a lot of people following during the live tweets, and we had an amazing month for downloads.
Yeah, which is pretty wild since we only have 9 followers. So
I know they must be freaking downloading 3, 4, 5 times an hour. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we had a little over 5,000 downloads in March, which is great. Yeah. So unfortunately, this is only the first week of April. So, and now we're on hiatus.
The season's over, so it's a uphill fight for the rest of the month.
Yeah,
but we appreciate everybody's support, and of course, also the reviews over at iTunes help a lot too.
All right, so let's see the numbers for this week. Season 5 finale. So it was pretty good. The had a 15.78 million viewers overall, up a little bit versus last year, and it's actually one of the show's top 3 highest rated shows. Number 1 program of the week, again in the 18 to 49 group, and it's funny, there were 15.78 million viewers. At the same time that was going on, we had March Madness. We had basketball going on over at CBS, and they only put up. Walking Dead beat basketball, so they only put up a little over, just shy of 15 million viewers on that basketball game there. So
wait a minute. Is the basketball? Is that the one with the orange round ball? Is that the one where they shoot it into the net with, or is that hockey?
I forgot who I was talking to when I mentioned sports. I have to put up visual cues for Kirk to understand. So great numbers and
amazing numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, the show just kept climbing and climbing this season, and hands down, best season.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
I mean, season 4 was fantastic, but it had a couple of episodes that were not, on par with the rest of it. And this season, there really isn't one episode that's like was difficult to watch in any way. It was all like 1,000 miles an hour. It was awesome, tense, gripping, wonderful performances, lots of deaths. I mean, they really broke us of the pattern of finales and premieres being the danger zones for characters. I mean, this week, this week, listen to me, this season, it was all bets are off. I mean, there was, we lost Beth in mid-season. We lost at the beginning of this second half. We lost Tyrese. We lost Bob. Kind of in the middle there. It just keeps you on your toes, And as much as I know all of those key characters that we talk about all the time that are probably safe, ultimately they're not, you know what I mean? And you just never know when it's coming, you know what I mean?
Well, especially since they're trying to hew kind of close to the comic book,
right?
But make a couple changes. Deanna and Reg,
right?
In the show, in the comic book, it was it was Regina was the wife and Douglas was the husband.
Yeah.
So if you're making these kind of, we talked about how Sasha in the show is the Andrea of the comic book now.
Right.
So if you're going to make these changes, yeah, you're right. I think that there are going to be characters, and we have a couple wild cards in there because Judith is alive on the show. She wasn't in the comic, so. Yeah, it makes it interesting.
There was there was a picture somebody put up from, I think it was on Twitter, from season 1, and it had the whole cast, and there was, I don't know how many people in the shot, like 20 some odd, I think, or something like that, 17 or 18, something like that, and it's like there's only like 5 from that whole group that are still with the show.
Yeah.
So and it's I think they call them the Atlanta 5. I think it's Carl, Rick, Daryl, Carol, and
Glenn.
And Glenn. That's right. All right, time for tweets of the week. Let's see. Our Biters regular listener and friend Thomas at CelticSo had a couple of good ones. Most surprising fact, reason finale, Carl actually stayed in the effing house. But as we'll talk about coming up, that may have ended up actually been a bad thing for Carl this time around. And then at CelticSo also said a Walker-Pedic mattress for Sasha. That was cute. On Rick Zombie Takedown, which got a lot of people pretty excited on Twitter. At TWD_locations, Rick is just medieval. At Helena _hand BSKT, hand basket, I guess. Basically, Alexandra is a Lunchable. That was cute. At Ricky Grimes, those walkers sounded just like Beth singing. Oh, that's vicious. Let's see. At HFDMAMA, at HFD Mama. Always remember that Michonne will always have Rick's back. No doubt about it. Just keep her in the loop, Rick. That's so true, right? Our friend Jamie at JLKKLO15, he tweeted, if Gabriel dies, we rot, ... Lots of laughs. Wait, never mind. No rioting if Gabriel goes down, that's for sure. At Rocker88_, I am just so not entranced by the Apple Watch commercial. Bring back my zombies. At the warehouse with Team Daryl. That got a lot of people tweeting too. At Cherokee_Rose WD. Daryl whipping that chain and knocking the walkers' heads off made my ovaries explode.
Oh man.
and then the best part is they tweeted a little icon for explosion. At Too Short 35.
Daryl hit him so hard, my ovaries exploded. What?
Man, I can't imagine what foreplay is like in that. But I'm pumped. Get the chain out, will you?
Oh my lord.
Set up the dummies. I want to hit some heads off here. At Too Short 35. Okay, Daryl. Chain kill for the win. Completely epic and full of Daryl awesome sauce. At Peter J. Katelar. I think Stop and Shop delivers walkers to your door. They have an app or something.
Seriously, it did look like an ad for like Fresh Direct.
Peapod. And at Jujin 918, 90 minutes was not enough. And I'll tell you, I could agree with that. I could have watched that show for 3 hours.
Yeah.
If it kept going, But it went so fast,
It did.
So fast.
All right.
All right, dude.
Now it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And the ugly.
The good, and ugly.
All right. So, what did you think about it? How many headshots you give it overall?
I didn't even write it a headshot count, but man, there's so little that I could say bad about it. I got to rate it high, 4.8, 4.9. I don't know if I've ever given a 5. Maybe No Sanctuary when the premiere of at the beginning of the season, but it was good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It was. I got to go with probably like a 4.8. I mean, there were a couple things that just annoyed me, and a couple things, especially towards the last couple minutes, actually. But for the most
suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, it got spread a little thin. But I mean, the entire episode, you're just on the edge of your seat, just watching everything. I mean, first of all, to start off with Morgan, who is, oh man, we've been wanting to see him for since the beginning of the season, and holy cow, did he just whip out the go all Book of Eli on those guys?
I know, right? I mean, bottom line is Walking Dead always rocks the best when it's written by Scott Gimple and it's directed by Greg Nicotero. Hands down. I mean, I think there was a co-writer with Scott on this one. I didn't write
Seth
that down.
Hoffman.
Seth Hoffman, that's right. But man, he wrote Clear, he wrote No Sanctuary, all the really gripping, powerful ones, and all the great episodes that I like. A lot of times, Greg Nicotero is the director, so and the two of them together, they're just in such a groove with the show. So definitely one of my fave finals of all time. But so go ahead, you were starting to get into the whole Morgan intro. If you want to start with that.
Yeah. So. Opening up and you see Morgan in the car, and what was the episode where he took out all those little icons? Remember when he was at the church? Was that 4 walls and a roof? And
it was Coda. It was the finale of Coda. It was the extra credit scene afterwards when he goes in.
So when you see the rabbit's foot up on the rearview mirror, I thought that was a great little nod to what we'd seen before, and it was just. He's just such a cool cat when he's sitting there and drinking his oatmeal or whatever it was he made, and that first wolf comes up on him, and he just he did something. The actor did something, like he hears a noise and he looks, just his eyes just kind of dart to the woods real quick, and I didn't think it was the other wolf. I thought it was Morgan catching wind of, there's a walker nearby, and just bide his time. And I didn't expect it to turn out the way it did. I certainly didn't expect him to be, like a
Jedi Knight.
Yes, exactly. But it's always great to see him, and his
Lenny.
That opening scene was
the actor's Lenny James.
Yeah,
he's awesome. Yeah, I loved that opening sequence as well. I loved it for all the same reasons, and then some. I love that this is how we got the explanation and intro to the wolves
Hmm.
instead of any number of ways it could have been done or not done. But we've been so led along. We needed to finally get some not closure, but at least some explanation, and from all the clues and this guy just sitting down and one on one, so intense with that gun pointed at him.
His
But
line, the line that he says when he's with Morgan, when he says, "Little chats in front of a fire with strangers." That's the closest thing to movies now. I thought it was a great line.
yeah, I'm going to come back to that to the offerings that you mentioned because that stuck out to me as well. In some ways, the whole scene kind of rotated. I could be reading into it here, but it seemed to reflect that whole offering sequence. And the reason I say that is we get the rabbit's foot, which is the luck, and it's looking over him. And when he wakes up in the morning, it's there, and he smiles, and then he uses it again, after the battle, he sees it. So there's this again, luck is so important in this new world. And then the fact that the wolf wants his food, and he wants to basically take it right out of his mouth. He's like, whoa, don't put that in your mouth.
Right.
I'm taking that. And the second offering was the Goo Goo clusters, which is food.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the second most, the second part of the triptych of most important things, or of the new, religion of survival, I guess. And then the gun, after the whole battle and everything, the gun's pointed at everything else. Morgan picks it up to shoot the zombie, and there's no bullets in it.
Right.
It's empty.
Right.
So, that to me was a callback to the bullet, which he had, which was the third item in the elements and of the three offerings, and I think is symbolic of the fact that you got to have good luck, you got to have food, and you've got to have weapons that you can rely on and that will work for you and that are there for you. And that guy didn't have, he was empty. He had an empty-handed gun. You know what I mean? And I just thought that was awesome to way to tie that back in. That wasn't just a throwaway scene in Coda. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the way this guy lives his life now.
Now the thing I didn't get was when he took them both and he shoves them in the back of the car, right? And then he honks the horn. So I thought, and I'm sure a lot of other people too thought, that he was basically honking the dinner, ringing the dinner bell But I read something that said that when I didn't see Talking Dead, even though
he was on. I watched it.
He said on there that he did that to make sure there weren't any in the area.
Correct. That's what he's saying. He's saying that it all is part of his newfound kind of sanctity of life. Even bad guys, they're alive, so they're worth saving. So he wanted to make sure by beeping the horn that no other walkers would be around, so he could leave them there and they would not get munched on.
But it's
I didn't feel that way. I'm with you. When I saw the scene, to me it was, but I didn't see it as I'm going to alert the walkers so that they'll get munched. I saw it as I'm going to alert the walkers if they're inside the shut car, they can't get munched. I'm going to alert the walkers in order to slow these guys down and allow me to move on.
Oh, okay.
That's what I saw. I saw it as kind of defensive. Like, let me get them occupied and tied up in here, and then I can get out of here. But they'll be able to get away probably. But according to Lenny James, that's not what it was. I also liked that Morgan is kind of foreshadowing Rick Grimes' future, I think. And it's funny because it just seems like different characters in this series evolve into different stages of their character development, and often they're at different ends of the spectrum to other characters, and then that switches around. And Morgan in season 1 saves Rick and helps him understand the new world.
Mm-hmm.
And then in season 3, in Clear, Rick basically saves Morgan by starting to restore his sanity, by confronting him and everything else. And then maybe in season 6, it's Morgan's turn again to save Rick and his sanity.
That final scene where he looks and he sees more. I mean, just the look on the look on both of their faces was it was priceless. Rick kind of like it reminded me of being a kid getting caught doing something I wasn't supposed to do, and then Well, and then Morgan had the look my parents had when they caught me doing something I wasn't supposed to do. So it was very familiar.
So I think that, Rick has kind of gone through this evolution of starting out as this person who was trying to hang on to his morals, trying to hang on to his humanity, trying to protect the sanctity of life. Like when he tells Earl, we're not gonna shoot you because we don't shoot the living. I think it's Earl. I'm not positive, or maybe it was Daryl, but. And then, of course, over the time, he's evolved into this more brutal, more Shane-like kind of person. And I think those of us who read the book know that eventually he comes back to something in the middle. And that's what I think kind of hopefully Morgan is kind of going to help him do, I think. So, yeah, great to see Lenny James back. I always love his character. I don't think he's going to be around a lot next season. My guess is we'll get him for the first couple episodes, or maybe even just the first episode. And then, my guess is he's going to shuffle on because he doesn't agree necessarily with where Rick is mentally right now. You know what I mean? And he's going to go try and find his own way. And of course, I've theorized, I think here before, that my guess is that the show's going to make him be the Ezekiel of the comic. That he'll end up kind of founding and developing the kingdom, and but that's just a wild guess. I kind of blew one of my crazy predictions at the end. All right, what else did you like?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, what wasn't to like? Let's see. So the next time, the next scene with next big scene with Rick waking up like he's just like he just came out of a Rocky movie, and he's got Michonne there, Glenn, and I mean that was a tense scene because I didn't know how that was going to go, especially with like Glenn didn't seem. Rick's basically plotting the overthrow, and Glenn just didn't seem like he was on board with that at all. So there was like a lot of, I was not confused so much, but I just didn't know which way everybody was going to dance. I knew that they were on the fence about Michonne, and then, Carol, holy cow. I mean, she was just amazing this episode too. And the line that she says, these people are children and children like stories when, she's explaining,
Right.
What they need to do.
All we need is knives.
Yeah. I mean,
with these people.
So that was kind of tense. I didn't know how this was going to be a splinter in the group? Had Rick gone too far with his zealousness? And was Michonne going to be on his side? Like I said, Glenn didn't seem to be all part of it, and then just Carol not missing a beat. She's just stitching together the story that they're going to tell when they go to council that night. And it was just, that was really good. Let's see. Next time after that, Maggie with when she sees Gabriel out the window, and then she's talking with Deanna. I didn't understand why she didn't give up something about Gabriel. At that point when she's on the porch with Deanna and Reg, and basically is like, everything this guy says is BS, but she didn't do it. And it was interesting to see that Reg was on Rick's side, and with his quote, "Civilization starts when we stop running,"
Right.
Which I thought was a great line. So we again, you start to get closer and closer to the edge of your seat, because here we are in the opening moments of the show. We know the council is going to be a big thing, and I was wondering if we were finally going to get a prediction that was going to come true. We said that Rick could get exiled.
Way off.
But it looked like it was going that direction.
Yeah.
Sasha, can we talk about the visual of Sasha lying in the grave?
I know, right?
Holy cow! I found it somewhere today. I just happened to think of it. It needs to get put up on the Facebook page. That was a fantastic visual.
That was powerful. First, she's like loading the bodies into the hole. I mean, that alone is gruesome work.
Oh yeah.
And then just curling up in the hole with the dead. I mean, it was it was obvious. Sometimes The Walking Dead it doesn't bother me. I know it bothers a lot of people, but sometimes they're just so. I think the term you've used before is on the nose.
Right.
And certainly this was one of those times, but still, it's still a powerful image. I mean, she's basically feeling dead inside, and she's most at peace just lying right there with the dead. And that's talk about emotional turmoil.
Well, you got the girl, you got the girl with the rifle and the really, really acute case of PTSD, also on burial duty. I mean, that's just compounding matters.
Yeah, well, I think it's self-imposed though. All of her punishment, it seems to be self-imposed. She's making herself up and stay up in the bell tower, all out, 24/7. She's taking out the walkers, then going down and going in the woods and hunting them, and then so I think it's all just kind of this self-imposed torturing of herself because of how she felt inside.
The Carol and Rick again with the scene where she's they're talking about what's going to happen at the council, and I think that's when she gives him a gun again, and Rick's kind of like, well, I don't want to lie anymore is what he said, right? And she just had a great line. You said you don't want to take this place and you don't want to lie. Oh, sunshine, you can't have both. She just awesome.
Now, I agree with you completely, and I think McBride just freaking knocked it. Is just the whole season just is knocking it out of the park. For that matter, for the last 2 seasons, she's been knocking it out of the park. So that's great. And Carol's development has been awesome, and I love this, but everything else. But as I don't think the show is necessarily saying that she's such a great person at this point in time.
Oh, totally not.
Right. And I think, and I'm definitely, like when she continued the lie in front of everybody, that's talk about splitting. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just like splitting everybody and all this stuff. And then, putting Michonne on the outside, and she's manipulative and like that whole scene with Rick and everything else. And it's like Rick is starting to realize, at least within our immediate family, we have to be on the same page.
Right.
And we can't, be having all these underlying missions and everything. And, and then like when she goes off to, since we're talking about her, when she goes off to see Pete, and granted, it was an awesome scene and it was ballsy and everything else. But, it seemed like her inner anger, like now she's got a little bit of power. You know what I mean? She's always been, or not always, recently, but back in the beginning, she was this beat down, defenseless person who had no power over the situation where she was being abused. Now she's got all this ability and strength and confidence and power. And this guy's a loser, and she knows exactly what he's about. So she takes advantage of that and like basically threatens his ass to get him to do what she wants him to do. And essentially that sets him off. I mean, that's when he goes into the, throws the dish on the ground, goes into the room screaming, this is not my house, it's not my house, and basically that's when he snaps. So she essentially kind of set in motion what happened at the end because of the fact that she's kind of tearing through this place in this vicious mode, you know what I mean? So, and I don't think that's a positive thing, but it is a great drama. And it makes for awesome TV, and she's doing a fantastic job of it. But as a character, I'm not loving her right now.
Yeah, she's definitely a puppet master, and it's going to, and like you said, she's getting more and more confident in that role, and I think that's going to be somewhere down the line. That's definitely going to be her undoing. I think that second scene with Rick, you definitely saw he was very aggressive and very just talking the overthrow when we first see him in this episode. But then that second time, it was almost like he was tired, and he just I don't want to lie anymore. Let's just
right. But
she still kept pulling on the strings and trying to make the puppet dance. So
right.
Boy, I tell you what, if there is anything that is more reviled on this show that we've learned so far, it is Carol's casserole. I mean, left on a doorstep, thrown to the floor this time.
I wonder if it was the same one.
All I can think is when she goes to walk out and she goes, and I want that clean before you return it, and then he like throws it on the floor. I was like, oh, she go be pissed. That scene with Pete was great. The Aaron and Daryl show, I love these two, and I've said it before, and the more I see Aaron, the more I like him. He's just such a strong character and such a great counter, or not a counter, not a foil, a balance to Daryl. He's just great, very level-headed, and so I love seeing those two guys together. And then they're out tracking the Little Red Riding Hood. There's your wolf motif, right?
Yeah.
And I just, that coming into that scene, basically the trap, was awesome. Now, granted, I didn't think. Well, I was gonna say I didn't think anything was gonna happen, especially to Daryl. I would have bought that. I was concerned that something was gonna happen to Aaron. But I'm gonna have a problem at the end of this podcast to come up with a zombie kill of the week, because we had basically guillotine by license plate, right? We had Daryl with the chains,
right?
We had the head in the door, in the door frame. Yeah, Holy cow! I mean, that was.
Then you had Rick was, I think his fist he puts up through the zombie's head and into his brain, or was
he shot him? He shoved the gun up there and pulled the trigger.
Oh man. Oh, and it just went all over him.
Then you have the one by Gabriel too, with the noose, the throat with the So,
which is kind of a repeat of one that was done by Michonne back when Earl. It's not. Is it Earl? I always get that wrong. And Celtic is going to kick my ass. Daryl's brother,
Merle.
I keep calling him Earl. But when Merle kidnapped Michonne.
Yeah, we're already not hearing the end of the whole Otis Cletus thing either.
No, I know. And she was tied to a post with a walker, remember? And then she gets the wire that's tied her there around the neck and pulls it through. So it was kind of similar, but yeah, it was pretty cool. No, I agree. I thought Daryl and Aaron are fantastic together. I think they make a great team. I like the way they communicate. I like that Daryl seems to trust him and kind of opens up to him the way that he does Carol, or the way that he did Beth. So it gives us a chance to see more of his character come out. I like how the two of them are affecting each other. You know what I mean? The writing of that scene, and how Aaron realizes that he was giving up on the red poncho guy and Daryl wasn't, and that they wouldn't be in this mess if he hadn't given up, and that he realizes now that Daryl really is the special guy that has this never-ending fortitude to save people and to find the good people and to do whatever it takes to rescue them, and that's an amazing thing, and that he regrets not having that himself, because they wouldn't be in that situation. I thought that the red poncho guy, red just keeps continuing to be symbolic in this whole season. We talked about it last episode with the balloon and the red-handled machete and all the other references of red, and like the balloon, which kind of represented a loss of control last week, the red poncho seems to represent giving up hope and how it gets people killed. And in this situation, Daryl and Aaron let the red balloon slip. Plus he's a red shirt, which is a Star Trek callback.
Right. He's the literal red shirt in this one.
Yeah.
But when they're in the car, and Daryl pulls out his has himself a final smoke, and then is like, all right, on the count of 3, we're going. I pretty much figured that Aaron was going. That he wasn't.
I did too.
He wasn't going to survive that.
I know. It's fantastic. It just keeps you right on the edge. The warehouse trap was absolutely amazing.
That was.
I thought it was terrifying, original. Of course, we talked a little bit about the disco music at the end when they bring him back in. It was freaking freaky. The meat hook hanging ones, I don't understand the significance of it necessarily, but man, it was scary and gross. I loved the writing on the foreshadowing of the tagline on the side of the truck. How the harvest gets home. Those trucks are going to Alexandria.
Oh yeah, these guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
building. These guys
Loaded
are
up.
building a horde.
That's right. And they're going to load him up, bring him up, and smash through the gates and unleash. It's going to be a mess.
But is
it's-
it just you think? But you think it's just these two guys?
No. I don't think so. I don't think so. Do you?
Well, we haven't seen anybody else.
No, I don't think it's just these
But
guys.
this operation has got to be bigger than just these two guys. And
Yeah.
do you think these guys wouldn't be? I saw some chatter around the internet that these two guys were the two cast-offs from Alexandria. I don't think so.
I think that the guy Douglas is not Douglas. Davidson is, but it's interesting too that they Davidson gets explained to Rick in the comic by Douglas.
Yes.
And he was taking it because I just went back and checked it this morning. He was a great leader, the hands down, the right person to be leading them in the beginning. But then over time, he started to take advantage of his power and mainly to use it to abuse women in the sense that, like, he never raped them or anything, but he would use, basically, protection as a way to manipulate them to sleep with him. So in other words, if you took care of him, then he'd make sure you were protected. If you didn't, he didn't. Mm-hmm. And that just got out of hand. And so Douglas in the comic book has to kill him. Now in the TV, he's been dished out.
Right.
Now I just want to make one interesting correlation. Who in the comic book in the villain genre behaved like that?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm just saying. It still seems way too early, in my opinion, for that guy to come on board. But it does have a similar kind of background to their background. But I do think that the castaways, the people that were exiled or kicked out, will be part of the Wolves. But I don't think those two guys are either of them as Davidson. That's just my guess. I had a couple more things I wanted to say about Mr. Poncho. Obviously, you pointed out yourself the Red Riding Hood, symbolism, which ties into, the big bad wolf, mm-hmm. Which is kind of cool that they had the wolves and Red Riding Hood. It's also worth pointing out, I think, that Scott Gimple wrote this episode, which we have many times already pointed out. And he also, and we get the poor guy with the poncho, right? Mm-hmm. The other episode that we always talk about that he wrote, that Morgan was also in, so this is almost kind of like a bookend to that. Is clear. And in that one, we get the sorry camper who's backpacking.
Oh, right.
And they pass him and he's like, hey, stop. And they blow right by him. And then on the way back, he's dead. And they stop and get his pack. So it's kind of an interesting framing of the story because again, you see him in the beginning and you see him at the end and it kind of frames the whole thing. And mm-hmm. He's alive in the beginning, he's dead in the end. And part of it has to do with the fact that they didn't reach out and help him. They mm-hmm. didn't stop and help that guy on the road. They didn't keep trying to find this Poncho guy, and he ends up dead. So it just brilliant way to tie that all back together again, I think. I think that's all I had on that scene.
I really the going to the final scene. I really liked the filming. I love the music. I love that they open up the trailers and the walkers start going towards it, but then it was interesting that we might have done a cutaway and then come back, but basically they show you see the doors coming down. You don't see it directly. You see the reflection on the wall. Right, so there's 3 sets of disco lights going, and then there's 2, and then there's 1, and then it's all dark. And I thought that was just a really cool way to shoot that.
I agree. And then of course we get the scene with them afterwards when the zombies are all kind of put away, and he's going through Aaron's bag.
Yeah.
And of course that's going to lead them right to Alexandria, of course, because they think they said they were 50 miles out.
50. Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of ominous, I thought. What else?
Let's see.
So wait a minute. How about Michonne?
Oh
my
yeah.
Gosh, talk about good. I loved her support of Rick. I loved their scenes together, the 2 scenes together when he wakes up, and she's basically like, you want to tell me why you're being so stupid, basically. And she is such a great influence on him. I mean, I think the whole reason he turns around when they get together as a group and says, I don't want to lie anymore to Carol or whatever. I mean, I think that's because of his conversation with her, and she's basically, and he's like, well, I didn't know if you were going to, try to talk me out of it or whatever. And she's like, dude, I am always going to be with Rick Grimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
I am always on Rick Grimes' side.
Right.
And it was just a wonderful, wonderful, and it calmed him down and it reminded him of how important, his connection is with all of these people. And it was wonderful. I mean, if they don't put the two of them together, which I don't think they will, but I just think they're perfect. In fact, I was waiting for him to kiss right in that scene.
I could have sworn that was going to happen too. Because she was just, again, from the way that the episode started, she could have danced either way. It could have been, and I was expecting the confrontation. I was expecting.
They were trying to make us think that was what was coming. Yeah.
So it was very cool, and it just endears Michonne even greater to me that she sticks by Rick. I like the line that she said to him when she said after he confides in her and they talk, and she said something's going to happen. Just don't make something happen.
Right.
So, like you said, she's that.
I wrote it down. I don't know.
I
don't know. I wrote it down. If it goes bad, then we take it. Just don't make it go bad. But you might have had it right. I didn't go back and check, but it was something to that effect. But it was a fantastic line.
Let's see. So
basically, you know what it was? It was the TV's version of the comic book line where she basically says, "You need to get your shit together." And I think that's actually what she says in the comics. She says, she said, that's fine, but now go get your shit together, get your head screwed on right. You know what I mean? And basically that's what she's saying to him. She's saying, if it goes bad, then we'll deal with it, but don't make it go bad because you're freaking acting stupid. You know what I mean? And I tell you, in that final scene, not jumping ahead, but he basically is saying the same things he said when he was waving the gun around and was acting all crazy, but he just said it in a much more
normal.
Yeah, much more normal way.
If you had only said this last episode, you wouldn't have gotten knocked out, and we wouldn't be.
Reg would still be
alive. Yeah. All right. So then, so the whole Sasha. All right. So first we see Gabriel, and we see Gabriel kind of go out for suicide by Walker, and at the last second, he basically gives up or it calls it off, and I want to live, and then kills the Walker and kind of goes back in a daze. So we now know how with the gate not closing behind him. And again, at first that annoyed me that there was the gate. What the gate guard said, I got to go. I'm gonna head to the town meeting. Hey, can you close that behind you? And Gabriel just kind of half-ass closes it. And at first I was annoyed because I was thinking, what you guys don't have, there's only one set of eyes on the gate. But then I caught myself and realized that, this is Alexandria and these people are clueless. So of course there's only going to be one set of eyes on the gate. And when that happened, I mean, you pretty much knew where that part was going. But then him and Sasha.
But wait a minute, before you get to him and Sasha, when he goes out to do death by zombie, what's up with he had the white shirt on?
Yeah.
That thing could not have been whiter. It looked like it had just been bleached, right? Exactly. I mean, it was like it had a volume control on it. That bitch was screaming, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh man, that's coming back all freaking, painted on.
Yeah.
And then he runs into this Walker who he has to fight with, bash its head, rip its head off with the rope, blood oozing all over. Then he has to go over and bash the dead guy. Right.
Yep.
There's no blood on it.
Well, God
so what
uses
was that
OxyClean.
symbolic of?
God uses OxyClean. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So
God and Mr. Clean are kind of the same guy. It was definitely symbolic. I'm not sure what of though. I'm not sure exactly how to interpret that.
Wait. Okay, so is it symbolic of his unstainable, untaintable purity? So no. Even he gets messy, that he still has a purity about him?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I can't go with anything else. That's all I got.
It just seemed to me like I don't know. I didn't know really how to interpret it. So maybe our listeners can give us some feedback.
So he comes back. So he comes back from that, and he's in the garage chapel. And Sasha, who we've seen, she's just a hot mess. And she comes to him and she says, can you save me, or can we talk, or whatever it was that she said. And I thought that was going to be the moment. What's that?
What a dick he was.
But I thought that was going to be, I was kind of groaned because I was like, oh, I know where this is going to go. That's going to be the moment. He's come back. He's had his little walkabout, and he's going to come back. And because Sasha is there and she wants Father Gabriel to help her, that's going to be the spell that breaks everything. And he's going to be, and he didn't. And it went in a direction that I thought was awesome, that he was a dick to her. And she's kind of, knocked back on her heels a little bit, like, wait, what? And he gets into how she's not deserving, and one thing leads to another, and she's got a gun on him. And I mean, that was she says, can you help me, is what he said. And he was like, no. Well,
then he yells at her about Bob and about how
she
her
brought
fault
it on,
or some crap like this. And it was like, because of what they had done, that he had to be sacrificed, that was what happened as a result of what they had done, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, and she was like, what? So, the guy was so broken, you know what I mean? And I think maybe that's what the shirt was about too, was because he went out there to die. He went out there to get dirty. He went out there to validate his weakness and his horribleness and his self-hatred of himself, and he couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't even do that. He basically chickened out of that. He just has no courage. I mean, here's a guy who's going out to get killed by zombies, encounters two, and comes back. He doesn't even have a freaking drop of blood on his shirt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like he just can't. He can't live with himself, but he can't kill himself. And so the two of them are basically at the same point.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean those two must be a blast at a party. I mean, just how damaged they are. Can you imagine? So the at the end of it's like, what are we, Act 6 here in this episode? So towards the end, I know we've glossed over Nicholas.
Wait a minute, are you moving away from Gabriel?
Well, no, I'm just talking about how the end of that act, before we go into the commercial break, how they were weaving,
right? I was just
between the four stories, and I was like, it could not get any more intense than that,
Yep.
So we've got Gabriel and Sasha fighting. We've got you got Rick, who's discovered that a walker's in the compound, and then he comes across the walker. Right. You got the town meeting where they're basically going to mount Rick on the cross, and everybody's giving their their last testament. And then you got Nicholas and Glenn out in the woods,
right?
Doing what they're doing. Glenn's trying to basically save his life, and between Nicholas and the walkers, I mean, that was some of the most intense Walking Dead all season, if not the entire.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you had built. It was the editing kept cutting back and forth, and I think the way it concluded was you had Rick on the ground, a zombie on top of him, just about to freaking gnaw his face off. You had Glenn finally getting back on top of Nicholas with the gun at his head, and you had Sasha having Gabriel on the ground with the gun pointed at him, and Gabriel's like, "Do it, do it, do it." Mm-hmm. and then you got the meeting, like you said, going on. It was like unfreaking believable.
Actually, when we go to commercial break, didn't we go to commercial break with Nicholas getting off of Glenn and the walkers falling on Glenn? I think we went to commercial.
There was a break there, but then when they came back, that they kept editing back and forth between those same scenes, and they were building and building and building and building until the final build was you had basically Rick almost about dead on the ground, and then Glenn on top of Nicholas, and Sasha on top of Gabriel.
So that was, again, like I said, that was just great, and I kind of figured something was going to happen. The thing is before I saw this episode, I read a spoiler somewhere. I got to stop going to certain sites, and I read a spoiler that that basically said that no one was going to die in this episode, and I didn't believe it. I thought it was just no, that's not true. So up until this point, I had seen the certain beats go through, and I was like, oh, it might turn out that way. But when we went to commercial break here, I just knew someone was not going to make it. But that was intense. And then we got the finale, the meeting. So, and like we said, if that speech that Rick delivers, and what a way to make an entrance for your own roast, right? You show up and you got blood and crap all over your face, and you just look like, yeah, I want to take you seriously when you're saying, especially when he what was the line he concludes his little speech with was, basically, I'm going to paraphrase here. It was basically like, I woke up this morning wondering how many people I would have to kill in order to save you.
I know, right?
Wow, man with words. And then we've got then with Pete and how everything ends. The big thing was for me was just that look between Rick and Morgan when Morgan just kind of gives him that look like, I don't even know who you are. This is not the guy that I remember, like you said, who had helped me out before. Who are you? What's happened since we've been apart?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those were the big goods that I had. I mean, it was just a tight, like you said, 90 minutes. Next time I look up at the clock, I realize there's like 10 minutes to go in the episode. It just flew by.
I loved too that Maggie's ability to get Sasha to back off and to show mercy, and then it was kind of like Glenn had to hang on to his his morality and all that he's been saying about we're not that kind of people. We've got to keep that clear in our head, and he finally was able to get that anger, pass that anger, and be able to see that once he had the upper hand, and then he shows mercy, and then Sasha is just about to kill Gabriel, and Maggie basically puts her hand on her, and then brings her off, and then the three of them, that shot of the three of them holding hands and praying, was basically the two of them needed an intervention. They needed somebody to come to them and show them the way, and she has really taken on her father's demeanor and role in that way, and I thought that was beautiful. That was a beautiful tribute to Herschel, I thought, and that was fantastic.
I've come to the conclusion that the biggest badass on the show, in this entire group, and I'm a little loath to say this because I've dogpiled him a lot over the years, is Glenn. You got a guy who has how many walkers were on him, okay, and he escapes unharmed. This is a guy who survived last week or with the turnstile. This is a guy back in Woodbury who was tied to a chair, and
that was the first sign that he had special powers.
Holy cow, he's amazing. Totally under appreciated.
And in the context, so here he is almost like superhuman in the way that Carol is also almost like superhuman, but there's a humanity about him. Like they made a point of showing him and Maggie having a connection earlier on in the episode after I think she's met or going to meet with Diana, or I think she's going, and they kiss and he says, "I love you." And there's just, he's very connected to people. And I think that helps keep him grounded and gives him his special powers, and then that's why he was able to show mercy, I think, in that scene with Nicholas. It was also kind of cool that Glenn chose mercy, Sasha chose mercy, and Rick chooses execution.
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of difference. I mean, Nicholas killed people because of his weakness, because of his lack of experience, of training, his fear. Same thing with with Gabriel. Gabriel killed people because he was afraid, because he was a coward, because he didn't have, the courage to live in this world, and he hunkered down instead of trying to reach out and trying to help. And Pete cold-bloodedly sliced Reg's throat wide open.
Yeah,
It was-
I think that wasn't intentional. That wasn't.
And beats his kid and beats his wife. I mean, he was,
Yeah.
he is a consciously making a decision to be violent towards people, and that's different than those other two.
The only thing is I don't. The thing is that I don't buy the Glenn. I don't buy Glenn doing being as merciful as Glenn is. Look, last week with the whole with the turnstile and Noah dying. Yeah, okay, I can see him beating Nicholas up, and I get that. But in this one, Nicholas shot him. Nicholas left him to die for a in front of a horde. I don't buy that you show mercy to this kind of guy. So I think they've stretched it a little too hard for Glenn with this storyline. But I mean, that's just me. Especially in the context of all the evil that these guys have seen from Terminus, from you name it, everything that they've seen out there, and Glenn's gonna let this scumbag live. I don't buy it. Just put it out.
When he comes up over the crest of that hill and takes the bullet in the shoulder, I was like, oh fuck, this is it. Glenn's going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? I mean, the way they did that. It wasn't just fighting, it was like he got shot. You know what I mean? And
as soon as that happened, I'm watching the TV by myself. I was like, Kirk's right. Kirk wins.
Nope, Kirk doesn't win. And let's see what else.
One other one I forgot to mention on my likes is I liked the scene with Abraham and Eugene. A lot of this episode seemed to be kind of clearing the decks and reshuffling the pieces back into place and getting all the pieces, all the ducks in a row in preparation for next season. Because the chaos that was involved in this episode, I don't think we're done with yet. It's gonna linger on at least for another episode. But it was nice to see Eugene and Abraham kind of kiss and make up. And Rosita was cute in that scene.
When she knocks the pan over, that was classic.
I was like, oops.
Abraham continues to have the best lines. His line there, he goes, when he says to the community when they're talking, there's a vast ocean of shit out there you people don't know shit about, and Rick knows every grain of said shit.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, by saying it that way, he sounded just like Eugene.
Yes, I thought.
And I thought that was interesting that the two of them. And I saw there was when he apologized to him, you could tell that it really touched Abraham. You know what I mean? And then Abraham basically said to him, you don't have to apologize to me. I need to apologize to you. I almost killed you. And Eugene's like, well, yeah, there is that. but it was like, I felt like I was watching two brothers that had just had this huge fight and were finally realizing that, they really loved each other still and they needed each other, and that they felt bad about the fact that they had such a division between them. It was really well done.
Eugene was kind of endearing this episode. I didn't find him I didn't find him annoying. Although someone really needs to put a T-shirt together with all of Abraham's sayings.
Yes.
There are some classic ones.
There's some classics. Let's see. I had some other goods. Wonder if Reg's discussion with Maggie about how civilization starts when we stop sending people away was kind of a foreshadowing of Rick's future conclusion in All Out War, at the end of All Out War, and his decision about what to do with Negan, without giving too much spoilers away. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's a situation where, he chose to handle it very differently than he just chose to handle Pete.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really trying at that point to establish a new civilization, in the book. And I think that's where we'll get eventually. Let's see. I think we talked about Rick fighting in Michonne. talked about that. I'm trying to say I tried to kick in my goods as you were going, so that I wouldn't have to go through mine all separately. Yeah, I think Carol and Rick represent the kind of survive at any cost and pragmatic mentality, and Glenn and Sasha and Maggie kind of represent the moral approach that maintains humanity. And I think, that town is going to need both.
Right.
That's kind of the message of the season. You know what I mean? Let's see. We have a listener, Gijo, who's sent us a screen cap of Michonne's katana that's in Pete's hand just before he's about to slice Reggie by accident, and it's already got blood on it. And so
now, just to pause you for a second. Now you can see this. Everybody listening, you can see this as well. If you go back and you watch the episode, you'll see when Pete arrives, he's got the katana in hand, and you can kind of see it down by the side. And then the next time you see it is when he's basically kind of waving it around like a madman, and he cuts Reg's throat. But when he cuts Reg's throat, there's already blood streaked along the blade.
Right. Before he makes contact with his throat. So the question is, was that a mistake? Was that just bad editing? I don't think so, but we will have to see. But I thought it was really cool, and it's even if it ends up being that, it's a cool thing to have left in because it keeps people thinking and speculating. And I think the fact that during Rick's speech, just before that happens, it's intercutting with the shots of Sasha and Maggie and Gabriel sitting around holding hands and praying, the shots of Nicholas and Glenn trying to make their way back to Alexandria together, and there's shots of Carl and Judith playing. So
what Kirk's trying to get at here is that he's speculating that Pete grabbed the Michonne's sword. Oh, by the way, good jobs putting the angry alcoholic in the house with the sword on the wall. Awesome job. So Kirk's speculation is that blood is that it's not an editing error, that actually Pete used that sword on somebody.
Well, you pointed out to me that Cudlitz and I think Reedus, right, were quoted during the build-up to the finale about how horribly sad this episode was going to be and how people were going to be in tears and blah, 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 and angry and pissed off and blah, blah, blah. And certainly there was nothing.
There was nothing like that.
No, there was nothing like that. Reg was a loss, but that was not a tear-jerking loss. And
so in that vein, I piped into this conversation with Gijo that the rumor is that whether or not it was the end of this episode was rejiggered to something else. The rumor or conspiracy theory, again, it's out there on the internet, is that the bigger hit that was supposed to happen this episode is actually going to happen season beginning, in the premiere of season 6. If that's the case, then that lends credence to Kirk's theory that blood is not a mistake, and that Pete took it out on somebody. And your cast of characters that it could be is got to be a kid. It's either Carl, Judith, or Sam. I'm not convinced that it's not an accident, and the only thing is because it was super subtle. I mean, like when you watch the scene, it really is like a frame where you see the blood, he cuts Reg's throat, and then you don't see it again, and you don't really, you can't. Maybe I just didn't have good enough resolution on my TV. Maybe somebody can blow it up. I didn't quite see it when he's got the sword by his side. And the way I saw it, it looked like it was clean by his side. I just think that if you're going to do something like that and you're going to kind of sell that, or you're going to leave that out there, it's not going to be quite as subtle. But
let me. I agree. But let me ask this: that katana is in the house that Michonne and Rick are living in.
Mm-hmm.
Carl and Judith were staying at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick makes a big point about how he's got to stay. And Carl, in turn, makes this big speech about how we can't get kicked out because these people are soft and they need us. Again, it's almost like Carl's like feeling empathy for these people. and then he gets left in this house with Judith, and then somehow Pete got that katana.
Right.
Well, I'm sure he didn't come in there and ask nicely if Carl, and Carl just gave it to him. Carl's going to defend that house, defend Judith. He's not going to let him do that. So something had to go down.
Here's the problem with that theory. I just realized at the end of the episode, we see Michonne putting the katana back up on the wall.
Right.
And then
Right.
taking it back down. But
Right.
if something went down, there should be a body, there should be debris, there should be something. Would we actually see her?
When do we don't know when that scene is of Michonne.
Well, we're assuming it's after the.
Right.
Well, it's got to be after the.
Well, it was after, and it was dark. But I mean, they could have come back and discovered a whole bunch of stuff. There could have been a whole bunch of stuff that happened, and then now, that's all been dealt with or whatever. And now she's, got to decide what to do with the sword, and she decides to put it back on her back. I don't know. I'm just saying.
So then we come back to.
Or maybe it's in another. Maybe it ended up being outside of the house that it took place. I don't know.
All right.
Or maybe it didn't take place at all. But I would think they've got to explain how he could go into the house, get the sword, and not have some sort of confrontation with Carl. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that I brought it up as I thought it was cool because look, it's got us talking. It's got the internet talking. It got Gijo writing us. So kudos to the show, and kudos to Gijo for catching that and writing it and letting us know. Another good was the return of the map.
Yes.
And Abraham's note. I thought that was so cool. The new world will need Rick Grimes.
Yeah.
Here we are at the new world, and it does need Rick Grimes, but it will be losing something in exchange. And I'm guessing, based on Morgan's reaction to Rick shooting Pete, is that it is too high a price. So that's the notes I made. I just think that that was just cool to have that come back and to have that whole message and about how the new world needs Rick, and yet here's Morgan watching him kill this guy who's defenseless on the ground. It's like, well, wait a minute, maybe the world doesn't need that Rick.
That scene, readers of the comic book would have, and I posted up on Facebook how that scene played out in the comic as it was on the show. So I knew that was coming because I was familiar with the comic. People who weren't familiar with the comic probably got caught by surprise. But still, when she's holding Reg and he's bleeding out and she looks at Rick and she says, "Rick, do it." And then he just doesn't even flinch. It's not like, well, maybe I should think about it. He just turns around and shoots Pete in the head. It was like one of those Mystery Science Theater 3000 things where I was writing the next line of dialogue. No, jackass, lock him up.
I didn't mean shoot him.
Yeah, what are you doing, psycho?
It was kind of eerie almost how the scene that we've already talked about where the group decides that they may have to take this place that tonight at that meeting, when they're having that whole discussion, it really was a foreshadowing of how that final scene kind of went. Carol talking about the knives, and knives is all we need. Of course, it's the sword that comes in with Pete and does the damage. And then, Rick says, tonight at the meeting, it looks like it's going to go bad. I'll whistle. Carol grabs Deanna. Right. I take Spencer. And Michonne, you grab Reg. And then Glenn and Abraham cover us with the crowd, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, it's Michonne's sword that ends up taking Reg out. Yeah. So it was kind of interesting. The final scene with Michonne was really cool. I liked it. It's kind of right from the book a little bit, and about time she freaking put that thing back on her back. But did you check out the octangular artwork that's in the back on the wall? There's like if you look at that scene again, and when they come to the front and show her face as she's looking up at, there's like I don't know if it's a yarn or if it's a sculpture or what, but there's this like octagon shape that's on the wall. And I was reading moviepilot.com, and they pointed out that octagons are symbolic. If you look up the symbolism of octagons in history, is rebirth and transition, which is a perfect symbol for kind of the new rebirth of Alexander that's going to come under Rick's tutelage or under Rick's leadership. It's kind of like starting off in a whole new way now, So I thought that was kind of cool. I love when they put in those little things. I did not see time reference again.
I didn't either.
And I didn't see any reference to the episode number. but I'm
Nope.
sure it's there somewhere.
Well, I don't know. We haven't seen those for a couple episodes. So
Yeah, and I haven't seen anybody writing about them, so
No.
I don't know. Maybe. All right, what do you got for bads?
All right, so it's just a couple nitpicky things, and it's not really enough to dissuade me from liking the episode as much as I did, but just a couple things. One, and I noticed this right off the bat, and it really annoyed me because for as cool and as tight and as awesome as they've been writing Daryl and Aaron, how did Daryl miss all of them cans
Yeah.
hanging from
Yeah.
for a guy who can track, a gnat across a field of wheat? How does he miss the cans? So that
What was the point of the cans? To me, they're just a giveaway.
They were a
It seems
total
to-
giveaway.
I know. So
I mean-
why would the wolves put them there?
Noisemakers to draw more walkers.
So if you run into them when you're panicking,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
So that
Why
annoyed.
did they have them on the meat hooks?
I don't know. Why are they cutting them in half
Yeah.
and leaving
Cutting the
bodies-
arms and
or
legs
cutting the
off.
arms off? There's something. I mean, when he explained why they, the W on the forehead, it wasn't enough for me. I want a deeper meaning. I liked the thing that he mentioned that brings in a little Native American mythology, which was that the first tribes in the area thought that wolves were turned into men.
Right.
Native American mythology is there's some really cool stuff. But I didn't buy the W on the forehead, and like you said, seeing them on the meat hooks is it's a cool visual and all, but I want to know more.
Yeah, there's got to be something behind that.
While you brought up the thing about Maggie bringing peace and calm to Sasha and Gabriel, I don't know. It seemed too sudden, given how damaged these two people are, and the fact that they were going to be together in a kumbaya circle, holding hands. It was a great visual. I will give you that. And
Right.
it was, and it fell perfectly. That to see that fell perfectly into Rick's speech. But I don't buy it. I mean, basically, like I said, this episode is a bunch of clearing and setting all the pieces. So basically, what we've walk away from this episode is that they're both fixed. Maggie's healing hands is.
Well, they're on their way. They're on their way. They're no longer loose cannons. They're damaged goods, but they're going to find some solace in each other and support each other and rehab each other.
The only other real thing that stuck out to me was they got this town meeting going on, assuming it's in the center of town, and the town's not all that big, but they're there, it's quiet, and they're having their discussion. How did they not hear the gunshot go off in the woods, with Nicholas and Glenn? All right,
Right.
You know what? Maybe that's a little bit of a distance away, and you can't quite. All right, I'll let that one go. How'd you not hear the gunshot go off in the garage when Sasha shoots the window out?
Window,
Oh wait,
yeah.
wait, hold on a second. There's a silencer on.
Silencer,
that. So
yep.
Okay, all right. I'll let you have that one. How did they not hear the gun go off when Rick blows the zombie's head off? That's basically a street over from where they are.
You said that. I asked. I don't think that's what happened. I don't think he uses the gun. I think it's his fist or a knife or something, but he comes right up through the chin or the throat and goes into the brain and pops it out through the head. There's no gunshot. That's why.
All right. Well,
I don't think
check.
so.
I'm
No,
pretty
I don't
sure
think
there was
so.
one. So anyway, there was a lot of gunfire going off.
Yeah,
Enough gunfire that should have gotten people's
yep.
attention, and so. But those were, I think, those are my only.
Yeah, I agree. My bads were, beaten and wounded Glenn fighting off a 3 zombie pile-on.
Yeah.
Now we don't get to see it, but especially when Rick was struggling with just
Right.
one. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think you can make the argument that zombies come in all different shapes and sizes and levels of decay. So perhaps the zombie Rick was fighting was fairly new, and the 3 in the woods with Glenn were weak and oldie moldy zombies.
Oldie moldy.
But that's having to imagine a lot of plot that we shouldn't have to. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I just granted it made for great drama, but that's the second time I thought he was a toast.
Yeah.
First when he took the bullet, and then when he took off and those 3 zombies fell on him, I was like, this guy's total munch meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so that was a little suspension of disbelief. I still feel like they should have just built a jail to lock Pete up.
Yeah.
Still, we said that last week. I say it again.
Well, and that's a good point. When he's in the house and Carol comes in and threatens him, and she leaves, and he just stands there. Why don't you just leave the house? Because Rick did it earlier, right? He just like puts his stuff on, walks out of the house, and gives Deanna the stink eye as he's walking down the street. Why don't you just walk out of the house?
Well, they must have warned him. They must have told him this is your new arrangement and you've got to respect it or there's going to be other consequences or something like that. I mean, in the comic, again, when I was reading through, they say that, Michonne says that she's going to keep an eye on him. They've split them up, put him in his own house, and Michonne's going to keep an eye on him. So, they explained it a little bit more than they did in the show, but yeah, I agree. Let's see. A little bit of problem with the disposable as needed lone survivors. We can go dozens of episodes and see no other survivors. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, when the plot needs it, they pop up,
Right.
in singles. You know what I mean? I mean, you got Red Poncho Dude, and then sorry loser out on the road there that Father Gabriel finds, right? I mean, what? Where are these people coming from? You know what I mean? I mean, they should have, they should introduce new people, like a person walking like that, and add them to the group. It's I guess they kind of did that with Bob. You know what I mean? Although they start off, Bob's already part of the group. You find about it in a flashback. They found him on the road walking. But yeah, they should introduce more characters that way, or add a couple of characters that way. Those are really my only bads.
Well, it's something I thought about watching this. We're in Alexandria, right? And we got this. We're surrounded by this wall that's reinforced from the wrong side, and we've got all this cool stuff. Why don't you just keep going on into Washington D.C., where there's already big marble buildings and ways to fortify yourself in a better way, in the Lincoln Memorial maybe, or the Capitol. Why don't you go there instead of here? It doesn't have a direct influence on this episode, but just and it's a reflection of the comic. But
the only thing I would say is that they were brought there. They didn't have a choice. They were brought there by the army. At least that's what they said in the first episode when they get to Alexandria.
Yeah.
So they have to, they're there, so they got to make it work, as opposed to, they're not going to pack up and walk all the way back into.
Right. But what I'm saying is when Rick and group show up, when especially Abraham and Eugene or Rosita, or Abraham and Rosita, who have experience with DC, you look around and just go, yeah, let's pack all this up and go out there, So all right, so did you do all your bads?
Yep.
So my ugly is a really cool ugly, and that's got to be the booby trap.
Yeah, that booby trap was awesome.
Just unreal. I mean, when Daryl bends down for that one, and opens up the back of the one trailer, you knew something. I expected zombies to come out, and I didn't expect everything that unleashed.
All three trailers to open up at once.
Holy cow. There was like a wire. There was like a rope that connected everything, and it had such a great Foley sound. That sound of like, just a rope, whipping through the air.
Yeah.
That anytime you ever hear that in a movie, that's never good.
Never good. And then the note inside the car.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, that was like.
Well, that was the thing. It's like Aaron pulls it up and kind of looks at it, and I was like, wish we'd have seen that, 10 minutes ago. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, but it was also great too. They're like, well, maybe we can cover up the window so they can't see. If we were really quiet, we can just hang here, blah, blah, blah. And he's unwrapping the note. No, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love Daryl's line too. Let me just have my smoke.
So there were people. So there were another thing online with that scene. There were people that were drawing comparisons to Merle when he was in the car.
Not Earl.
No, not Earl, and not Otis either, or Cletus.
Cletus.
Yeah, not Earl or Cletus. When he was sitting in the car and they're up against the window and he's like offering him a drink of booze, to the window.
Great scene, classic. My ugly good was the whole way they handled Morgan this season. The slow burn, the just the right amount of teasing, and then the big huge payoff in buckets of awesomeness. I mean, it was just so cool. I mean, I knew it was going to be a great finale with that when it opened up and it's there he is sitting in camp, and I was like, yes. So
yeah, and then he's got that little bow staff, and he's just.
I know. Of course, then when he goes freaking Jedi, it was awesome. But I mean, the way they had they show him finding Terminus, and then a few episodes later, he finds the church, and it was just then the school, and it was just awesome. It was just
between
awesome.
him and Glenn, man, they're going to be untouchable.
Yeah, absolutely. The other ugly good I had, which is really kind of funny, but I so loved the Band-Aids on Pete and Rick and the way that they were I mean, it looked just like the comic.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the comic. It was so cool. And who puts Band-Aids on like that? You know what I mean? But still, it looked so cool. And it was such a great throwback to the comic, I just loved it. I thought that was fantastic. What was your character of the week?
Carol.
I went with Michonne. I just, her stability and her, loyalty to Rick and her protection of him by knocking him out and then sitting with him and explaining it to him and trying saying, listen, just basically explain to me what's going on here, so I can help. And, let's not screw this up, but I got your back if it goes south. And it was just, she just wasn't, not condescending, but not critical, but what's the word I'm looking for? She judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he hands her the gun, almost kind of like like I'm sorry, I fucked up. Here, take the gun. You're probably better with it. You're probably can be trusted better with it than me. And she's like, no, man, dude, it's your gun. Right. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? we roll on. You know what I mean? So that was I really dug her.
Yeah, and we talked about how Carol's duplicitous and she's manipulative, and she's just the puppet master here. But I'm drawn to characters like that. I like how she is.
She's complex.
Oh yeah.
Wicked complex and devious and strong and no, absolutely.
Her strength has they've really just tapped into how strong that character is especially this season, and it's just it is going to trip her up. She's going to get a little too big for her britches, a little too smart for her own good, and it's going to get her into actual trouble as opposed to her manipulations kind of causing trouble. I think it's actually going to get her into trouble at some point. But I've loved her evolution so far, and she's had some great lines this episode. I loved it.
Yep.
All right, your
zombie kill of the week.
Yeah, this is tough for me. Like I said, there were 4 big ones. I got to go with. I got to go with Daryl going Ghost Rider on the 3 with the chain.
Amen. Me too.
That was
me too.
Awesome.
Somehow I got to get that in the tribute.
That
was awesome.
So
that was so awesome. Absolutely. All right. How about some crazy predictions?
Crazy predictions. All right. I am going to buy into the theory. I'm going to buy into the theory that something bad happened off screen just because of the tweets of Reedus and Cudlitz that leads us to believe that this was supposed to be something bad was supposed to happen.
Like maybe they shot it, and so the crew and stuff knew, but then they went and changed it in editing, and they so they ended up not being at all what they were. I think that
what do we have? 15.78 million people watch this episode. I think we come back season 6. Probably 16.1 million viewers because the fuse got lit for Alexandria on this. I mean, the powder keg didn't go off; it got lit, and we're going to. I now think that it's not going to be a one and done terminus episode. Dealing with the big stuff. I think the wolves are a bigger thing.
Yeah.
And it's got to take them. They're 50 miles away. It's got to take them a couple episodes to find Alexandria, assuming that none of their group is Davidson or anybody else that they cast off, and maybe they are, but I mean they're building this horde. You basically have a wrecking ball behind you to knock through, and those walls at Alexandria are going to come down.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think that I'm still trying to decipher what Cudlitz and Reedus were saying, but I think something happened to one of the kids. I'm gonna buy into that.
I think it's a possibility. And it would be interesting too if that's how, I mean, a gunshot wound, I mean, again, spoilers for book readers. So if you don't want to be spoiled from the book, move ahead. But a gunshot wound to the face is going to be difficult to maintain the graphics of that going forward if he survives. You know what I mean? Of course, I have speculated that because of Judith, maybe he doesn't need to survive. But if he were to survive, but getting stabbed in the eye with the katana, then you just put a patch on. You know what I mean? So that would be much more manageable. So I think that's a possibility that's what happened. I don't know about Judith. I still don't know. If they're going to ever kill a baby or kill an infant like that. I don't know if they'll do that. Certainly if they do, it's going to be off screen.
Oh, right.
And like this, I mean, where you come back and hear about it so I think the wolves will attack very early, maybe even in the first episode. But they'll get their ass kicked by Team Rick and Morgan helping, and they'll retreat. But then they're going to return later in the season or later in the first half of the season with, I think it'll be the finale or leading up to the finale. They'll pull in with those trucks and they'll just dump the zombies in their lap. That's what I'm guessing. We already speculated, or I did, that the leader of the wolves will be Davidson, exiled Davidson. I already said I thought Morgan will stay just for a little while, but he'll move on. And I wonder if he won't become Ezekiel. I think in season 6, Jesse, Deanna, Nicholas are toast.
Wow.
Not in the first episode, but definitely next season. And maybe Abraham.
Really?
Yeah, well, if they go along the book, which they may not, but I mean, Glenn, not Glenn, but there have been plenty of people that like Carol, for instance, that didn't have gone on a lot longer than they did in the book. So who knows? I think season 6 will get Jesus, the character Jesus from the comic book, and the introduction of the surrounding communities. My guess is it'll be the latter part of the season 6. Those are really my
season 6 finale, last episode, introduction of Negan.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think we'll get the conclusion to the wolves, and in the first half of season 6, it'll end with the No Way Out storyline, which is the zombie hordes, and then we'll get the introduction of the communities, and at the end we'll get Negan showing up at the very end. But that being said, they have really added and extended these storylines, so that might even be rushing it. You know what I mean? For instance, if the wolves are going to be the scavengers from the book, which basically just have one sequence where they see them in the city collecting stuff or whatever, and they follow them back to Alexandria, and then they try and rush the place, and Rex people knock them out pretty quick. They took that little sequence, which was only a couple of issues, and they basically strung that out this entire season, and we still haven't even got to that confrontation. So they may string it out even more. I mean, season 6 may be the rest of that until there's a battle. Maybe the battle's going to be a lot more involved, maybe multiple times. Like I said, they retreat and come back. And then you get the whole No Way Out with the zombie horde. Maybe we don't get any of Jesus and the other communities until till season 7. I don't know.
Well, here's a question too: is if you're in Alexandria, and I used to live in Arlington, which wasn't far from Alexandria, so you're basically a hop, skip, and a jump away from the nation's capital. Wouldn't you try to see if you could get into the capital and see if there's, if there's going to be a city anywhere where there's some kind of government or some kind of leaders of some sort, that would probably be it.
Right.
Sure. In a catastrophe like this, we evacuate to, probably the mountains in Colorado or something. But you got to make a run at it, and you got to see what's there.
Yeah.
And you're right there. So
well,
that's not really a storyline that they ever covered in the comics. So maybe
they didn't cover it, but they and I complained about this a couple episodes back that when they first get to Alexandria, they go through via downtown Washington D.C. I mean, they go by the Capitol. There's a whole chase scene.
They see it in
They saw the
Washington
Monument. They saw the Washington Monument in the distance as they were going around a bend. But in the comic, they have a whole sequence where they travel through downtown DC and battle zombies, and then they battle bad guys, and there's a whole big chase, and there's multiple cars. I don't know if you remember that. And they go, there's our ATVs, 4-wheelers, and it was just like crazy bananas, and it was awesome. It all takes place downtown, and there's a Capitol building and everything else. So. But I think urban centers in general, I mean, we learned from Atlanta, they're not good places to hang out, but to your point, there might be, military bases or underground facilities or stuff like that, But I think it's economics. I think the show just can't, they can't shoot there. They shoot out of Atlanta, and they're trying to make it look like it's DC or Virginia. So.
All right. How about we do some fan mail?
Yeah. Are you up to speed on the comic?
Yes, I just read 140. That's the latest one, right?
I think so. Yeah. So so we found out what happened with Michonne. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'll start off with Thomas Reese, who gave Conquer 5.0. He said this episode should have been called "Finally a Happy Ending." Sorry, Reg. It was the best episode of the best season to date, other than season 3, episode 16, which can barely be considered optimistic. This is the most uplifting finale by far, and I think it's a good sign of horrible things to come. The good. Has Morgan been training with Shaolin monks? The opening scene was awesome. We finally get to meet the wolves. I heart Carol. The side shot of her putting the knife to Pete's throat was shot perfectly. I love the way he towered over her and how she seemed completely unimpressed. These people are children and children like stories lines. These children like stories line was awesome. She's a cold-blooded bitch and I love her. Rick and Michonne's conjugal visit. I thought this was it, just like we did. I thought they were finally going to kiss. The music changed. They got in each other's faces. Michonne got goo-goo eyes, but Rick couldn't seal the deal. My wife looked at me and said, "She's pretty, but it looks like her breath would stink."
Oh, my God.
Thomas, tell your wife that that's totally, that it wouldn't happen because remember, she brushed her teeth for like 20 minutes the first time they got to Alexandria. Right. Did Daryl and Aaron discover the sanctuary? In comparing the pics from the comic and the factory they find, I think they look very similar, with towering silos and hordes of zombies standing guard. The wolves we meet seem to be watchdogs, like they're guarding whoever's inside. Maybe instead of an iron, Negan brands people with the W. But I love the scene with Daryl and Aaron trapped in the car. Aaron definitely moved up in the ranks, and I loved how they both offered to sacrifice their self for the other. Respect. It's an interesting thing that he brings up about Sanctuary.
Yeah. I've heard other people say that as well. I've read some other things online about that. I just think they're teasing us. I think they teased us at Terminus with the guy that that leads the group that kind of created Terminus by torturing those people. You know what I mean? I mean, when he walked into that train car in the silo, he looked just like Negan, right?
Yeah.
Remember? I mean, they're just playing with us. You know what I mean? So.
Thomas goes on to say, Glenn and Nicholas, I was so moved when Glenn spared Nicholas and actually helped him back. I think they're going to be buds next season. I love the camera work in the forest. With every POV, you see nothing but trees, and you can't help but feel unsettled with the fact that there could be something lurking behind each one. That's true. It was a pretty well shot scene.
Which scene?
With Glenn and Nicholas in the woods.
Yeah, yes. Especially when it got dark, yeah.
Do you see Alexandria's healthcare conditions? Thanks, Obamacare. The scene with Abe and Eugene making up was hysterical and was placed perfectly to lighten the mood. I like how Rosita dropped the pan. Abe looks, and when he looks back, Eugene's just staring at him.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm glad they made up, and though I hate her, I thought it was nice to see Tara's eyes open at the end. Sasha, Maggie, and Gabriel. I thought the shot of Sasha lying with the zombies was eerily beautiful. I love how Maggie played politics for Rick, and I like the shot of them praying at the end. Again, all good endings. The bad, none. It was all good. His ugly was good. I love the contrast between the assumed threat, Rick, and the actual threat, the incompetence of Alexandria, and how, while these idiots are playing night court, Rick is on the job saving their lives. I love how the group came together for Rick, his speech, quote, I was wondering how many of you I would have to kill to save your lives. I loved Rick's zombie kills, Rick and Morgan's reunion, and I loved Rick's face when he shot Pete. Crazy prediction. Negan is the leader of the Wolves, and things are going to snowball fast in Season 6. His character of the week was Glenn. I've been impressed with him this whole season, and this episode really solidified him as a true leader. And zombie kill, just like we said, Daryl's tripled kill with the chain.
Excellent. Laura Will Swink wrote a very good finale. I give it 4.85 out of 5 headshots. And my second favorite finale after last season's, which is still the best Walking Dead finale ever.
Hold on a second. Wait. Hold on a second. Laura, really? Could you be more pretentious with 2 decimal points? Come on.
Plus, is it wrong for me to be happy that we had no main character deaths? If so, I don't want to be right. You guys had me sweating over Aaron's mortality after your last episode, and I was very happy that he was still with us in the end scene. The goods. Loved 90% of the show, especially all the scenes with Morgan, Aaron, and Daryl. Cheered in the opening scene with Morgan, and again when Morgan gave Daryl the map. So glad we got a payoff to all the Morgan teases this season. I hope this means we'll be getting more Morgan in Season 6. Love the scenes of mercy and forgiveness. In my opinion, right?
Right.
In my opinion, this was the reason for all the Dale callbacks. That's very insightful. That's very cool. Specifically when Maggie says she's going to talk to people in the town, it took me right back to Dale campaigning on Randall's behalf back at the farm. Wow, very cool. That's very cool. Very insightful, Laura. After a season of brutality and vengeance, doing whatever is needed to survive, I personally enjoyed all the scenes of forgiveness, from Glenn showing absolute mercy to Nicholas rather than a much-deserved death, to Abe and Eugene setting aside pride and forgiving each other and themselves. And the most touching scene was Maggie extending her hand to Father Gabriel after everything she knew of him. Yeah, that was powerful.
Yeah.
She not only gave Gabriel the grace of forgiveness, but also brought peace to Sasha. The scene of the 3 of them praying made me immediately think of Herschel praying with Maggie and Beth back at the prison when Rick struggled over his decision to betray Michonne. It confounded everyone's expectations, who were expecting death and vengeance and instead were shown humanity. This is excellent observations. The bads, a few annoying plot/editing holes. 1, how an injured Glenn escaped 3 Walker pylon. Yeah, I felt the same way. The writers may call it suspense. I say it was a cop-out. 2, how did it switch from late afternoon when Rick checks the gate to the next scene, late at night? Yeah, that happened with Glenn too. I mean, it went from basically like, late afternoon to like pitch black. So like, what are they saying? It was like hours they were out there fighting each other.
Right.
He would have lost so much blood. He would have dropped. But one thing we keep forgetting to mention, and is when I thought it was funny when Rick enters into the meeting and he's holding the zombie over his shoulder and he drops him on the ground. And he says, and I didn't just drag him in from outside.
Right.
like I better make sure I understand. I didn't just make this up. You know what I mean? Thought that was funny. How the hell did Pete, number 3, how the hell did Pete get Michonne's katana? I had established that Michonne and Rick lived in the same house, and we know that Carl is at home with Judith. So, is Pete such a sneaky drunk ninja that he tiptoed into the house without Carl knowing and grabbed the katana over the mantle? It seemed like something was lost to the editing room floor. And I think that might be something we get in a flashback at the beginning of next season.
Yep.
Observations. The one character I can see as a counterpoint to all this lovely dovey humanity, though, is Carol. She's become a very dark and Machiavellian character. I was surprised when she threw Rick under the bus and lied to her own group. Plus, I agree. Yeah, that's when I completely jumped the ship on her. I saw it the same way. Plus, I agree with Jeff. She's been subtly poking and prodding these two on-edge alpha males, hoping to start a vicious cockfight.
No pun intended.
First telling Rick to kill Pete, then going and rattling Pete's chain. I could almost see her. It was almost as if she wanted these people to snap so that they could take them out and take over.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I could almost see her look of satisfaction when Pete stumbled into the meeting wielding Michonne's katana. And by the way, did she just grab that abandoned casserole off Deanna's porch and try to pawn it off on Pete? Apparently no one in Alexandria appreciates a good casserole. Great job with the podcast, guys. I can't wait for the final season 5 tribute and hope you have a great off season, Laura. Thanks, Laura. Some wonderful points.
So before this episode, Laura had posted something about liking Aaron, and Thomas Reese had made comments to it. He said, Laura, Will, Swink, your comments about liking Aaron is the exact reason why he's going to die. They just greenlit 2 more seasons, and I assume the majority of the mains are pretty much anchored in. I'm sure it's difficult for the writers to maintain a rotation of familiar characters and a constant flow of meaningful deaths. Rick and his family can't die. The show's about them. Daryl can't die. He's too popular. Carol hasn't gotten evil enough yet. Glenn and Maggie haven't had a baby yet. Michonne, yeah, right. Rosita's too hot. Eugene's going to end up being a big deal. Gabriel hasn't had an arc. If he died, nobody would care. Sasha's black. So we're left with Carol, Abraham, and Tara. I assume Tara.
Sasha's it's not just Sasha's black. Sasha's the if anything, that's a curse on this show.
Right.
But the fact that she's filling Andrea's shoes, I think, is important.
That cements her. So we're left with Carol, Abraham, and Tara. I assume Tara will die in the season 6 opener. I hope. Oh, she's so annoying. So that's Thomas's predictions. All right, Gary Dombrowski about this episode, Conquer. What a great episode! I'm probably not the only one that was far from calling how the episode would play out. The good, despite his efforts to kill Glenn, Nicholas came away with his life. I hope this isn't something Glenn will later regret. I think Morgan would make a great mentor for him. Let's hope it happens. It looks like Sasha has finally hit bottom and sought help from Gabriel, who's just as damaged, but not to mention a danger to the community. Good to see that Abraham and Eugene have finally mended fences. The bad, for a second I thought Morgan's journey was going to come to a sudden end at the hands of the wolves. Morgan had some bad moves with that staff. Unfortunately, sparing the lives of the 2 wolves had dire consequences for the man in the orange poncho. Well, red poncho.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point because I think the show's trying to make a statement about, the importance for forgiveness and the importance for mercy and all this stuff, and that, to be a good human being still, you need to, regard life with sanctity and preciousness and all this kind of stuff. But, it comes back to bite you.
Yep.
Pete comes in and slices Reg dead. The wolves get Mr. Poncho and turn him into a zombie. So I don't know.
His ugly. Carol did not pull any punches with Pete. This woman is afraid of nothing. Pete's killing of Reggie was a little unexpected. Aiden's death was not enough of a wake-up call for Deanna. I think Deanna's reign, if not at least her way of doing things, is over with. Morgan's appearance at Alexandria could not have come at a better time. He'll make a valuable addition to the group. I am curious to see if Nicholas and or Gabriel could be facing possible exile for what they did. I'm curious to see if a relationship will happen between Sasha and Spencer. This is not the first time where a decision to not kill someone cost someone else their life. I give this episode 4.5 cans of what was supposed to be in those trailers.
Diane Maythorne wrote, I've been thinking about the potential conflict between Rick and Morgan. While some are pointing to Morgan's, quote, all life is precious mantra, is the possible source of conflict. I think it may actually be the thing that allows him to forgive Rick for what he has had to become. If Morgan can spare the wolves, certainly he'll be able to find it in his heart to forgive Rick for killing Pete. I really, really hope we get Morgan's backstory. Something big had to happen to change him into the ass-kicking Zen master. Yeah, I wanted to mention that because we didn't talk about it, but lots of people that I've seen writing and, any complaints about the episode, one of them is, how did this guy just turn into this, badass ninja? And I know Lenny James, I watched Lenny James on The Talking Dead, and he did say that there was an explanation for that, and there was backstory for that, and it came up twice. And the first time it came up, he said, and that will be explained, next season.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time it came up, he kind of was much more coy and kind of edgy about it, and said that he hoped that there was this backstory and that would get a chance to be explained. So I think we will. It sounds like something dramatic took place. I don't know if he got a mentor or something, but maybe he found.
But the truth is out there.
Maybe he found a collection of Bruce Lee movies and watched them over and over. I don't know.
All right. Abby Q wrote in. We haven't heard from
Abby.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from Abby in a while.
Yeah. Let's see. Everything gets a return. Glad to be back, gentlemen, for the season finale. He gives it 4.8 noggin shots. Let's see. Good. Morgan overall. It was great to see him. He did no wrong, in my opinion. Trapped in a minivan was awesome. Was I the only one trying to come up with ideas on how to get out? Rick having a moment, and you hear Bob's advice to Rick before he passed.
Yeah, that was
great
cool.
use of that. That's true. That's a good point. Carol is a scary lady. Melissa McBride deserves an Emmy. True that.
Yeah, true that.
The music box made an appearance again. Interaction between Abe and Eugene was a scene stealer for me as far as conversations go, straight and to the point. The fact that the Wolves found the pictures, that was a mistake made by Aaron not picking up his bag. And finally, none of the major players died. It totally worked for me. But Glenn, if I'm not mistaken, is still outside the gates. You're right.
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah, he is.
Bad. Gabriel needs to go. I think he cries too much. I want to mute his scenes sometimes, honestly. I'm with you there, Abby. I'm getting tired of it. It's like, but I think we've hit bottom, and now we're coming out with him. Ugly was a good. No one actually died. That was truly a 360 as far as season finales go. Am I right? They went the complete opposite and all worked out. Bravo. Pete and Reg died, but quite honestly, who cares for those two? Rick's speech was one of his best, along with the musical score in the back. I also like him not hesitating when shooting Pete. I think he's got his head on straight because he's technically not the leader. There was a very last scene with Michonne taking her katana off the rack and once again carrying it. Also a shot of another wolves not far graffitied on a car. That has me hyped for season 6. Well done. Characters, he went with Morgan and Glenn. Zombie kill, passenger door by Aaron, very gruesome. Yeah, that was awesome. Also close second was the steel chain whip by Daryl. Out of 10, I guess this season, I'd give this season a strong 8. The best storyline could have been written better, but it is what it is, I guess. Fear the Walking Dead is up next this summer. That name is terrible, by the way. Cobalt was too, but it's actually better than Fear the Walking Dead, just saying. Great season, great episodes, guys. Looking forward to a great summer and hope you guys have one too. He says, some shows I think people should check out. iZombie is cool. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix is very funny. Not zombie, but relates well written if you like 30 Rock. And Last Man on Earth.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about Last Man on Earth. I haven't watched it yet. I've heard some good stuff about it.
I watched a couple episodes. It just
Didn't work for you.
Didn't grab me.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying iZombie, although it's getting more. I'm on the 3rd episode now.
Yeah.
It's just getting a little bit more
formulaic.
Yeah, well, yes, formulaic and procedural.
Yeah.
So I'm not into that. But Leslie Cox writes, OMG. No money for guessing that I love that episode. I give it 4.899999 headshots.
Oh, jeez.
She blew the decimal points right out of the water. Most of those were from Morgan, of course. At various times throughout the show, I was convinced that someone was going to die, particularly Glenn. How the heck did he get out from under those walkers with a bullet wound? Meh, I don't care. I'm just glad he did. I'm also glad that Glenn didn't kill Nicholas. It confirms to me that our group are still the good ones. Then I thought Aaron and or Daryl were for the chop, and I'm still not sure about Aaron. He had a bloody hand at one point during the Walker box car trap attack. I hope he wasn't bitten. Yeah, I did notice that too. His hand was bloody too, but that could have been from anything. I also, someone told me, it might have been Thomas Celtic, that the actor is signed on for another show.
Yeah, I heard that too.
But I mean, depending on what that role is, he might be able to do both. I don't know. Loved the Morgan ninja style rescue. Morgan is my new heartthrob. I love the fact that he's a pacifist. I think he's a necessary addition to our group, a moral compass. I won't go on and on praising the show. There was very little about it I didn't like. I particularly liked the fact that none of the main characters died. I can't understand. It's so funny because that is part of why it's such a great show, is that at any time they could die.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's like you don't want them necessarily to always survive, but at the same time, it's like it is cool because you don't want them to die.
Right.
So I totally understand that. I don't understand why people are disappointed about that. I'd have been upset to lose any of them. The good, all of it, but in particular, the points already mentioned. Bad, Father Gabriel, not for the reasons you'd expect. How did he manage to rip the head off of a soggy, nasty walker, then smash in a man's skull at close quarters and not have a drop of blood on him? We were on the same page there. What was that? That was unconvincing and must have been a production mistake. No, I think it was symbolic. I think Father Gabriel is suffering from PTSD as much as Sasha is. I think he'll turn around in the next season and become more useful to the community as a spiritual leader. Ugly, bad, / good. The wolves. Bad because they're scary, and good because they're scary. I think they're collecting walkers to use for attacks on other groups. They certainly seem to know how to control them in mass. Her character of the week, Morgan, hands down. He exceeded all my expectations. Can't wait to see how he copes with what he just saw Rick do to Pete. Killer of the week, Daryl killing 3 walkers in one swipe of the chain. Thank you, Leslie. Good points.
Hands down favorite zombie kill there.
Oh yeah, I think it might be the kill of the season.
I got just a couple short ones here. Nikki Campbell Keith wrote in. She said, "Awesome. I love how closely the Gimple is sticking to the comics. Heck, I just straight up love season 5. My favorite to date. Character of the week goes to Carol. The way she owned Pete was epic. Zombie kill of the week is a tie between Father Gabriel's head squeeze and Rick's. Well, I don't even know what to call Rick's kill. I have a few quibbles, but nothing that would take away from my screaming, jumping up and down excitement of the season finale. 5 out of 5 headshots." Rye Kandri wrote in, said, "Season 5 is the bee's knees. My favorite as well. Every episode is like a feature film."
It's true.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for writing in and making comments.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we appreciate it. It really makes the show so much richer. So we appreciate it.
All right. So we are at the end of season 5 is in the books.
It's in the books. And this makes, I think, is this our first beginning to end season or was 4?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I think we came on somewhere.
I think this is our first front to back
season. Yeah, I think so.
So, okay. So The Walking Dead will return in October, but at the end of the summer, we've got 6 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead.
Right.
Which Kirk and I are planning on covering. So, we're planning on covering at least for the first couple episodes.
Yeah, if it's good.
If it goes sideways and it just ends up being like, Zombie Nation off of the Sci-Fi Channel, then forget it.
Not gonna happen.
But so yeah, we'll be covering that. But that'll be the end of the summer. We make this promise all the time that we're going to do some couple of extra episodes podcast during the hiatus. We'll do some movies. Maybe we'll do some talk about iZombie or some other zombie-related stuff. So if you want us to take a look at something, a show, a movie, a book, whatever you want us to talk about, write into the Facebook page and let us know. Now, people who've been listening to the show through this season and the prior season know that Kirk and I suck when it comes to making promises during the hiatus. We overpromise and underdeliver. So So no guarantees, but we'll definitely try. Yeah, and you can write into us at biterspodcast@gmail.com, or Facebook page is usually the easiest place, or you can we'll chat with us on Twitter. Kirk is at BatmanKM. I am at JMarsick, and the Biters Podcast is at Biters Podcast.
We'll also be at the Walker Stalker Con in Boston this year with Prince from my art tributes, as well as Z-Girl and the Four Tigers. And that's, I believe, the weekend of August 13th, but I'm not 100% positive. It is in August, though. You can find it at the Walker Stalker website.
August, we're going to be at Foxwoods, right? For the Kineticon.
That's the weekend.
Comic-Con.
That's the weekend before the Boston Walker Stalker Con. Yeah, so it's going to be busy 2 weeks.
So if you've never been to a comic book convention before and you want to come meet us or check out Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, and you want to gamble at the same time, come to Mohegan Sun.
Not that buying Z-Girl and the Four Tigers would be a gamble. That's a
sure bet. Yeah,
that's a sure bet. That's right.
All right. You got anything else?
There's we got at some point here pretty soon. We're hopefully going to get Cell, right? I mean, we that was one of the things we did review in one of our mid-season breaks or between season break episodes. Remember we reviewed Cell, the book?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's all been shot, but I haven't heard anything about when it's coming out. Have you?
No, it's true. I haven't.
I also read that the book I keep raving about, The Girl with All the Gifts, I don't think I mentioned it, but maybe I did, but it's been optioned into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Glenn Close is going to be in it, and some other people are involved with it. It's going to be really good, I think. There was a cool trailer that we posted, I think, on the Facebook page of that was kind of not even on my radar, of a Arnold Schwarzenegger zombie movie.
Oh, yeah.
That looked really good. It looks really cool.
It actually it looks good, and I gotta say, Schwarzenegger may actually show that he can actually act.
Yeah, I think there's been some preliminary reviews or whatever where people are critically acclaiming his performance. Yeah, so
Maggie, it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, it's called Maggie. It's basically his daughter contracts the zombie virus, and so the other thing is I don't know if people are watching 12 Monkeys, but that's a pretty cool show, and I'm only 3 or 4 episodes in, but I'm enjoying it a lot. And I wouldn't say it has similarities to The Walking Dead, but it's certainly apocalyptic in that sense, and it has time travel, which is the balls. So that's cool. People should be definitely checking that out.
And
so,
in the off season, until you hear the dulcet tones of our voices, on another Biters podcast, go over to Southgate Media and check out the other podcasts. I do one with Scott Malkus for the Flash TV show called Fast Talkers, and you can listen to us rap about the Flash. And
Flash was really good this week.
Yep.
I thought it was really good this week.
The mystery deepens of the Reverse Flash was pretty cool.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I'm going to totally switch gears here, but my take on that is that we may get Wells back at some point, or a variation of him. Since right? I mean,
like you said, time travels the balls, and it's
but he switched bodies, right?
Well, he basically sucked all the energy out of
But we
Wells.
had the whole thing with Firestorm where you got the 2 people living in the one body, and you had the doctor who was taking control mentally. It was kind of like a little bit of foreshadowing of saying maybe Wells can wrestle control away from the reverse zombie. Then you would have this great scenario where that guy could become evil again down the road.
I don't know. It looked like it was pretty much final on the way he sucked everything out of. I don't know, but we'll see. Yeah. But basically, Southgate Media Group is an growing empire of podcasts. So any show that's out there,
So wait a minute. That means we work for the Empire and not for the rebels?
Yeah, it's how it's supposed to be.
Jeez.
And if you need something else to listen to, head on over to Diane Maythorn's podcast, This Conversation Rocks, and give that a listen. She's always, her and her partner always have some really interesting topics that they talk about.
Great
over there, and
topics.
it's a
Yeah, they really do.
Really good podcast. So check that out as well. All right.
All right.
That's all we got.
Thanks
all 2
everybody
hours.
thank you. All right. Thanks everybody for a wonderful season and for supporting Biters and your writing in, your reviews and tweets and all that stuff. It's really great and it's really helping the show keep going. So we appreciate it.
Tell all your friends. Tell everybody who likes The Walking Dead to download us and give us a listen. And let's keep the conversation going during the hiatus. All right.
All right.
All right, everybody. Take care.
All right. Take care, everybody.